Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into the figure of Lord Rama, trying to understand him better.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we've got quite a range of sources, haven't we?
We do. We're looking at the Ramayanam, some critical essays on the Valmiki Ramayana, even bits from the Mahabharata.
It's fascinating how these different texts paint, well, slightly different pictures.
Exactly. So our mission, if you like, is to explore these facets of Rama, his character, his actions as they appear in these specific texts, trying to get a more nuanced view, focusing just on what these sources tell us about him.
Sounds good. It's amazing how one figure inspires such diverse interpretations across centuries. You mentioned the Ramayana, 9th century CE, quite a bit later than Valmiki.
Right, and it already has its own flavor, its own emphasis.
And then the scholarly work on Valmiki itself. That opens up whole other debates, really digging into the complexities.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Rama's lineage, his early life. The sources mention the arrival of Rishyasringa in Ayodhya.
Yes, this is before a big assembly of kings. King Dasaratha, Rama's father, clearly held this sage in incredibly high regard.
How high?
Well, the Ramayanam says Dasaratha traveled 3 yojana, that's a fair distance just to meet him. Shows immense reverence, doesn't it?
It really does. Suggests a lot of anticipation, maybe, around the blessings he and the other sages gave Dasaratha.
Mm-hmm. It sets the scene, you know. Rama being born into this environment of deep piety, perhaps divine favor.
So from that auspicious start, we pretty quickly see examples of Rama's strength and his role protecting the righteous. The encounter with the Rakshasi Tadaga comes to mind.
Ah, yes, the daga. And importantly, this wasn't random violence, it was a response, right? A plea from a respected teacher.
A godlike teacher suffering because of Tadaga's actions. So what do the sources say about her? What made her such a threat?
They paint her as genuinely terrifying. Cruel deeds, devastation, disrupting sacred rituals. She instilled real fear.
And Rama's response.
Swift. Decisive. The Ramayanam has this powerful image, a single arrow. It kills Thadaga, but then keeps going, piercing a mountain and trees behind her.
Wow, one arrow. That shows incredible power, but also maybe kind of focus, a commitment to ending that suffering.
Exactly. It establishes a pattern, doesn't it? Rama using his considerable strength for Dharma, for righteousness.
And the sage who witnessed it, he was amazed.
Awestruck. Apparently he even sort of shivered before Rama, despite knowing Rama had these divine weapons, weapons capable of destroying worlds. It speaks to Rama's presence, his aura.
And there's also that other early story, isn't there? About restoring Gautama's wife with the dust from his feet.
Yes, that too. Together, these early stories, they suggest Rama is more than just a warrior prince. There's a hint of something deeper, almost divine.
Inspiring awe, restoring order. Okay, let's shift slightly to something more personal. Rama meeting Sita and the breaking of the bow.
Ah, Sita. The Ramayanam especially uses incredibly beautiful language for her.
Like what?
Compares her face to the full moon, suggests her beauty could, melt hills. And just seeing her brought people joy.
That emphasis on her beauty, her radiance.
Mhm.
What does that tell us? Why focus on it so much?
It really highlights her as someone exceptional, virtuous, a fitting partner for Rama. Her presence is auspicious, It underlines how significant their union is going to be for the whole story.
And then the bell,
Mm.
famous bell breaking. How many people did it take to even bring it in?
60,000 servants, according to one account, an immense, seemingly impossible task.
And Guru Sadananda tells the story behind the bow and Sita.
Right. Then Rama steps up, following sage Viswamitra's instruction, and just breaks it.
And the reaction.
Universal joy, King Janaka, the devas in heaven, the people of Mithila, everyone is thrilled. It's a huge moment.
More than just strength, then.
Oh, definitely. It shows his strength, yes, but it's also symbolic. Him fulfilling destiny, claiming his partner. The joy signifies this is right, it's auspicious, part of the cosmic plan.
Okay, so from that high point, things take a turn. Rama's exile is announced. How did Ayodhya react?
The Ramayanam paints a vivid picture, especially the women. It wasn't quiet acceptance at all.
No.
Deep sorrow, crying, throwing scented powders, flowers, even questioning Rama, asking if he didn't love them, why he'd leave.
That's quite personal, isn't it? It shows a real connection. They didn't just see him as a prince.
Exactly. They felt he was invested in their lives, their happiness. His leaving was a personal blow.
And it wasn't just the women, right? The citizens generally.
Overwhelming love for him. They actively wanted him to rule. Some sources say they even offered him their own remaining lifespans, the merit from their penances, if he'd just stay and be king.
Offering their lifespan. That's extraordinary devotion.
Oh.
What qualities must they have seen in him to inspire that?
It suggests they saw him as the ideal king, doesn't it? Compassionate, fair, connected to their well-being. His exile wasn't just sad, it was devastating for their future.
And yet, amidst all this, Sita decides to go with him. He warns her, doesn't he, about the forest, the hardships.
He does, but she absolutely resolute. Her reply, especially in Kamban, is quite spirited. She's making it clear she's his partner, sharing his sorrows is her place.
Her devotion seems just as strong as the citizens, but in a different way.
Completely. For her, being with Rama is what matters, not comfort. Her presence, alongside Lakshmana, who also insists on going armed and ready, it shows these incredibly strong bonds around Rama.
In their departure.
Plunges the city into even deeper sorrow. Utter despair, Kaman says. It really drives home the impact Rama had.
Meanwhile, back in Ayodhya, eventually Farida returns and finds out what's happened.
Oh, Harada's reaction is intense. The Ramayana says he just collapses unconscious when he hears about Dasaratha's death and Rama's exile.
Complete devastation. What does that tell you about Farida's relationship with Rama and his own sense of right and wrong?
It shows deep love, profound respect for both his father and his brother. And he immediately gets it. He recognizes Dasaratha's righteousness, Rama's adherence to Dharma, even though it causes such pain. Harada himself clearly has a strong moral compass.
And he absolutely refuses the kingship.
Yes, a powerful act of integrity. His respect for Rama is so clear that even Guha, the hunter king, is deeply impressed.
Guha says something quite striking, doesn't he?
He does. Wonders if even 1,000 Ramas could equal Bharata's virtue in that moment. It's fascinating.
What does that comparison tell us about different kinds of righteousness?
It suggests righteousness isn't just one thing. It's not just Rama following orders into exile. It's also Maratha's selfless devotion to principle, refusing personal gain. His ruling symbolically from Nandigrama, with Rama's sandals on the throne. That says it all.
So Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana are now in the forest. They have some key encounters. Agastya.
Right, the sage Agastya, a crucial meeting. He gives Rama divine weapons, prepares him for future conflict.
And advises him where to go.
Yes, tells him to head to Panchavati, which of course directs the story towards the main conflicts. It's interesting too, the sources note their sadness leaving one hermitage, Sharabanga's, but then the joy of the sages in the Dandaka forest when they arrive shows the different impacts Rama has.
Which leads us towards the Surpanaka incident, a very famous part of the story.
Indeed. Kamban describes her passion for Rama as incredibly intense, almost obsessive.
And Rama's reaction.
Yeah.
Faced with these very strong advances.
He firmly rejects her. It underscores his complete faithfulness to Sita, his commitment to his own Dharma, his marital vows. He doesn't stray.
It's Lakshmana who acts then, isn't it?
Yes. After Surpanaka persists, threatens Sita, Lakshmana intervenes forcefully, cutting off her nose and ears.
And this humiliation is the spark, right?
Absolutely. Her vow for revenge, her wounded pride. That's the catalyst. She heads off, determined to bring about Rama's destruction.
How does she do that?
She goes to her relatives, specifically Kara and Dushana, powerful Rakshasas, tells them what happened.
And Kara reacts.
With fury. He hears about his sister's humiliation and immediately prepares for war, gathers a huge army.
Rama knows they're coming.
Oh, yes, and he's determined to protect the sages living there. Lakshmana wants to fight too. He's eager.
But Rama says no.
Rama insists on facing this army himself. He tells Lakshmana to take Sita to safety in a cave.
And the battle.
It's depicted as incredibly fierce. Rama single-handedly takes on thousands of Rakshasas, cutting them down, destroying their chariots, their weapons. The descriptions mention rivers of blood. Wow.
The Devas watch from above, cheering him on. He defeats Dushana first, then eventually Kara himself. A major victory, showcasing his prowess.
But Surpanaka isn't done, is she?
Not at all. After Kara and Dushana are defeated, she goes straight to the top, to Lanka, to her brother, Ravana.
And she tells him everything.
Yes. She describes Rama, his beauty, his incredible strength, but she also describes Sita.
Ah, and Ravana's reaction to hearing about Sita.
Immediate, intense infatuation. The Ramayana describes him as completely overcome, lovesick almost, just from hearing Surpanaka's description, so he instantly decides he wants her.
Pretty much. He starts consulting with Maricha, another Rakshasa, plotting how to abduct Sita.
A stark contrast to Rama's reaction to Surpanaka's advances earlier.
Absolutely. Ravana's impulsiveness, his inability to control his desires, is clear. Maricha actually tries to warn him off.
Why?
Maricha has encountered Rama's power before. He knows how dangerous Rama is. He's very reluctant.
But Ravana insists.
Yes. Ravana's desire for Sita is overwhelming him. Kamban even describes him suffering, seeing the moon as an enemy because it reminds him of love and longing. He forces Maricha to help.
Which leads, of course, to Sita's abduction and Rama's reaction when he discovers she's gone.
Profound grief, utter devastation. The Ramayana portrays him almost driven mad by sorrow, desperately searching for her.
The whole of nature seems to reflect his anguish too, doesn't it? Distressed birds, a sense of wrongness in the forest.
Exactly. It emphasizes the depth of his love and the cosmic disruption caused by the abduction. His grief humanizes him tremendously, even with his divine aspects.
And during this search, they encounter Kabanda.
Yes, the Rakshasa Kabanda. They cut off his arms, which actually frees him from a curse, transforming him back into a Gandharva.
And he gives them advice.
Crucial advice. He tells Rama to seek out Sabari, the ascetic woman, and then Sugriva, the Vanara king. This sets Rama on the path to finding allies.
Even with this hope, Rama is still despairing at times, isn't he?
Deeply. There are moments of intense despair described, but Lakshmana is there, reminding him of their duty, urging him onward.
Okay, so that covers a lot of the narrative flow.
Yeah.
Now let's shift perspective a bit and look at how some critical analyses, particularly of Valmiki Ramayana, view some of Rama's actions. There are debates, aren't there?
Oh, definitely. These critical essays raise some important questions. For instance, that promise Dasaratha supposedly made to Kaikeyi about Bharata becoming king and Rama being exiled.
What's the issue there?
Well, some analyses point out that there isn't actually a clear, consistent recollection of this specific Raja Sukha promise mentioned in the text itself. People seem unsure exactly what was promised when.
So the very foundation of the exile is ambiguous.
It raises questions, especially since Dasaratha is otherwise praised so highly for his truthfulness. The lack of clarity is interesting. It might suggest different layers in the text or evolving traditions.
Another really controversial point is Rama killing Vali.
Yes, a huge point of debate. Was it just, why did he shoot him while Vali was fighting Sugriva, and seemingly from a hidden position?
How do the critical essays approach this? Do they defend Rama?
They often argue it wasn't primarily about getting Sugriva's wife or kingdom back for him. It was framed as a punishment for Vali's own dharma, his transgression.
Which transgression specifically?
Usurping his brother Sugriva's wife, Ruma, while Sugriva was trapped in a cave. That's presented as the key justification. They also point out Sugriva's initial skepticism about Rama's power.
So it wasn't just a simple alliance based on mutual respect.
Perhaps not entirely straightforward initially. The essays suggest Rama acted as an agent of Dharma, punishing Vali's specific wrongdoing, though ethically it remains complex for many readers.
And what about Vali himself? Sometimes he's called heroic.
The critical views often counter that by highlighting parts of the Ramayana that show Vali as vain, easily angered, relentlessly pursuing Sugriva. So, while strong, maybe not purely heroic in his actions, the killing, though debated, is framed within that context of restoring Dharma.
Okay, moving on to another intensely debated episode. The Agni Pravisa, Sita's trial by fire.
Yes. After Rama rescues her from Lanka, critiques often question the necessity of this.
Why? What's the argument against it?
Well, you have Hanuman's testimony about her purity, her obvious suffering. Was a public trial by fire really needed? And Rama's words to her before the trial, they can seem incredibly harsh.
Harsh how?
Questioning her purity, suggesting she's tainted by being in Ravana's custody. Some scholars find this jarring, inconsistent with the Rama, who was consumed by grief when she was abducted. It raises questions about his treatment of her, maybe societal pressures.
But the story includes the gods appearing, vouching for her, right? And Rama gives an explanation.
He does. The gods confirm her purity, and Rama says his harshness, his rejection, was essentially for show to convince the world, to uphold public perception, so no one could ever question her or his decision to take her back.
So a political necessity, perhaps? Or a conception to societal norms?
That's how it's often interpreted. But critics still ask, why did Sita have to bear the burden of that proof in such a traumatic way? And Rama's statement about not taking back a woman who lived in another's house?
Sita has a strong reply to that, doesn't she?
A very powerful rebuttal. She points to her noble lineage, his marriage vows, her own unwavering virtue. It's a moment where Valmiki Sita shows incredible strength and protests the injustice.
Which contrasts with how she's sometimes portrayed later.
Exactly. Particularly in the Uttarakhanda, the last book, which many scholars believe might be a later addition to Valmiki's original work.
Why do they think it's later?
Well, the portrayal of Sita shifts. She seems much more meek, accepting of Rama's later decision to banish her based on rumors, which feels very different from the Sita who challenged him after the fire trial. Also, the overall tone and some events in the Uttarakhanda feel inconsistent to some.
So the critical view suggests Valmiki's original Sita might have been stronger, more assertive.
That's a strong argument made in some essays, yes. And they note that some later retellings of the Ramayana actually omit the Uttarakhanda entirely.
Interesting. One other point from the critical essay is Rama's grief over Jatayu, the vulture king, who died trying to save Sita.
Yes, some note that his expressed sorrow for Jatayu seems, at least initially, almost greater than his anguish right after Sita's abduction. It's likely meant to show his deep compassion and gratitude, but it raises nuances about his emotional expressions.
And finally, that comment Sita makes about Lakshmana being dearer to Rama than she is. That sounds potentially problematic.
It does if you take it literally. But the essays explain it's likely an example of a figure of speech called nahinda.
Meaning?
It's like saying something that sounds like criticism or a negative comparison, but it's actually intended as high praise. She's likely emphasizing Lakshmana's incredible devotion to Rama, especially seeing Rama's suffering over her absence, not making a literal comparison of Rama's affection.
Okay, that clarifies quite a few complex points from the critical perspective on Valmiki. Now, let's swing back to Kamban. We mentioned he wrote later, in the 9th century.
Around 885 CE, yes. And his work, the Kamba Ramayanam, is hugely influential, especially in South India.
And his goal was, perhaps, to present an even more idealized Rama. Less flawed than maybe Valmiki's.
That's often the interpretation, yes. A grander, perhaps smoother portrayal. We see subtle differences, like when Vibhishana, Ravana's brother, comes to join Rama.
How is that different?
In Valmiki, Rama questions Vibhishana quite thoroughly about Lanka's defenses, testing his intentions. In Kamban, Rama seems to trust him more implicitly, almost immediately. It paints Kamban's Rama as perhaps inherently more trusting, less questioning in that instance.
So small shifts that add up to a slightly different feel for Rama's character.
Exactly. And Kamban puts different emphasis on certain moments, too, like Sita's despair in Lanka, waiting for rescue.
What does he emphasize there?
He really highlights the immense, almost overwhelming joy and relief Sita feels when Hanuman finally arrives with Rama's ring. That moment of hope breaking through despair is very powerful in Kamban's telling.
And what about the villains or antagonists? Does Kamban portray them differently? Vibhishana siding with Rama is key in both, but what about, say, Kumbhakarna?
Kumbhakarna, Ravana's giant brother. Kamban gives him a particularly poignant portrayal. He recognizes Ravana is wrong, deeply wrong, about Sita.
But he still fights for him.
Yes. He refuses to abandon his brother, his king, even knowing the cause is unjust. It's a tragic loyalty to family and duty, even against Dharma. It provides a really interesting contrast to Vibhishana, who chooses Dharma over family loyalty, adds a layer of moral complexity.
Even Vali's death scene is slightly different in Kamban.
A subtle difference, yes. As Vali is dying, Kamban has him acknowledge Rama's righteousness. He even asks Rama to look after Sugriva and forgive him if he makes mistakes.
So Vali himself affirms Rama's correctness in the end.
In Kamban's version, yes. It softens Vali a bit and reinforces Rama's virtue, which aligns with Kamban's overall approach. Kamban was also apparently very conscious of the epic's structure, its architecture, sometimes arranging things differently than some Valmiki versions we have.
And the battle scenes.
Yeah.
Ravana's reactions.
Kamban describes Ravana's intense grief and absolute rage when he hears his sons, like Indrajit, have been killed. The battles themselves are depicted with incredible energy and ferocity in Kamban's poetry.
So wrapping this all up, it's clear that looking across these sources, Valmiki, the critical takes on it, Kamban, even touches in the Mahabharata, gives us a really multifaceted view of Lord Rama.
Absolutely. He's not a simple, flat character. We see strength, yes, but also deep sorrow. We see adherence to Dharma, but also actions that have sparked ethical debates for centuries. We see compassion, divine hints, and very human reactions.
And the interpretations clearly evolve. Kamban in the 9th century is already shaping the narrative slightly differently from the Valmiki tradition.
And that's the power of the Ramayana, isn't it? Its ability to be retold, reinterpreted, to resonate with different audiences across time, each finding or emphasizing different aspects of Rama and the story.
So a final thought perhaps for you listening. When you consider all these different angles, Rama the protector, Rama the grieving husband, Rama the upholder of Dharma facing difficult choices, Rama as seen by Valmiki versus Kamban, what parts of his character stand out most to you?
And why do those aspects resonate? What might that tell us about our own values or how we continue to engage with these epic figures today?
There's certainly plenty more to explore. We definitely encourage you, if you're interested, to delve deeper into these texts themselves and the huge amount of scholarship around them. It's a rich journey.